All right, welcome to the July 11th meeting of the Facilities Subcommittee. We have Michael Bork here from Honeywell to talk about the projects going on at all the schools, so we'll just let you get right into it.
That's pretty easy. My name is Michael Bork. I'm the Senior Project Manager with Honeywell and the Project Manager for the Honeywell Energy Project that we're doing here at Derry. Rob asked me to come and kind of give you guys an update what we've been doing recently and what we'll be doing here over the next couple of weeks. Our primary focuses over the last couple of weeks, we've been working in mostly Barca and Hood. Hood, we've been doing crane picks and installing some of the new AHU units, rooftop units. We got the two big ones over at Hood going up as we speak, and there's also a large one that we put in. We cut a hole in the roof and put in the attic ERB yesterday. And the roofers actually are up there right now patching that up. So that's pretty much been our focus. Kind of go through each school and give you a brief summary of what we've been doing. So Barca Elementary School. At Barca, we had the opportunity to get in here over April vacation and get some of the mechanical work done, which gave us a good head start. So we're actually almost 90% complete at Barca. Right now, mechanically, we're 100% complete. I have a pipe insulator coming in next week to finish that up. And then my Honeywell technicians are on site, commissioning all the units, start up, check out, and make sure everything's running correctly. So I anticipate them being in Barca for the next couple weeks, and then they'll start transitioning to Hood and kind of following suit as the DDC controls are being swapped over at Hood. So that's where we are with Barca. Grinnell, we're approximately 45% complete. The majority of the Grinnell work is going to come in a couple weeks. We have installed the two rooftop units on the K2, the kindergarten wing. Kindergarten wing. It's like a lower roof area. Yeah. Those two units are installed. I will also preface that over some of the vacations we were able to get in, and we installed all the mini split AC units as well. So those are all up and running and have already been checked out. So the biggest scope left in Grinnell is going to be, there's a mechanical room with two air handling units that are to be replaced. So remove the existing and replace those. So that's pretty much the biggest scope left in Grinnell. There's also some DDC swap over as well. So starting the week of the 16th is when we plan on being in there, starting that. Hood Middle School, we're approximately 75% complete. After this weekend, this is in kind of forecasting by the end of the weekend, knowing that we're putting these units in. So those two units will be set today, and then I have a crew coming in Friday to start piping and installing the ductwork for all those units. On Tuesday, I have an additional crew coming in to continue to even progress further. So that's kind of where we're at. Hood. I have Advanced Power and Electrician. They're installing DDC devices and swapping all over your existing Johnson controls. And as soon as they get ahead and Barca catches up, my Honeywell technicians are going to move over to Hood and start commissioning all that work.
So we're removing Johnson controls.
Yes, correct. We're swapping over and going Honeywell controls.
Good. Yeah.
Fully gone Barca and Hood for the last two.
So West Running Brook is approximately 62% complete. It actually may be a little more complete. It's weighted a little differently because we had a very large scope of refurbishing the 4 AHUs that were in the school. That's actually been complete. We did that over Christmas break. So that's been complete for a while. Those units came out very nice. Everyone's been able to see them. So really focusing on Barca and Hood right now, and then transitioning and finishing up the mechanical work in Grinnell and West Running Brook. So that's kind of where we're at right now. I threw some pictures. I have plenty more pictures that I need to get over to Jane. But
the crane dropping the unit in the attic is an awesome picture.
It is a really good picture. It was that was a pretty challenging lift, but we have some very good crews, and they did a great job. Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
So I'm assuming you guys feel like everything is on schedule.
Yeah, everything right now is trending, you know, to meet that August 27th date. As the closer we get, you know, in another month, I can definitely give you guys another update, because I think we're going to progress a lot in the next few weeks. So.
Have you run into any unanticipated challenges as you've been working through everything?
Maybe the abatement at Hood? That was,
Yeah, I mean, but honestly, I think we planned it pretty well.
Yeah.
And we got ahead of it, so.
Yeah, we were able to work it in with
Yeah,
the abatement that we had scheduled anyway, so.
Yeah, the facility department has been extremely flexible with helping us get everything done. You know, moving to and waxing different floors and different rooms to allow us to get into the rooms and install equipment, and especially the abatement. You know, we gave them we focused on a certain part of Hood there's a blower coil that we changed, which is like a small air handling unit. It's in the janitor's closet. In that, I don't remember what one it is.
Does the
It's where the
tech
summer
office.
school.
Yep,
Yeah,
so
the tech office.
51.
Yep.
Yeah,
the-
so where the summer school starts, so that was our primary focus. We went in there and completed that. They're installing DDC devices on the equipment right now, but all the mechanical work is done, all the ceilings are back up, so that you guys could have your, the D program opened up for the summer, so.
Excellent.
Pretty much all I got, but if anyone has any questions or.
Well, seems like you guys have everything under control.
Other than that, they're craning those other 2 units
Yeah.
on this morning, so.
Yep.
There's gonna be
Yeah.
more HVAC equipment flying through the air over in that neck of the woods. And,
We
yeah.
should sell tickets, is what we should.
What's
What's the potential wrap-up done?
We're gonna go right to the end.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's a large project. I had it scheduled out until.
Good.
So.
Okay. Michael, thank you so much.
All right, I'm gonna head over to the crane.
All right.
Thank you very much.
See the fun stuff.
Appreciate you coming over.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming, I appreciate it.
No worries.
She hasn't joined yet. I just got a little notification that it just said I'm still here. That's the notice that it was. So I haven't seen her yet. I'm just gonna check my email and make sure she did send a message.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. And I'll give you some copies.
No, sir.
Handles.
Michael, any relation to Ravork?
I know, I do get that very often.
Too bad.
And
Spelled the same way. So
spelled the
that's why I
same
was
way.
like,
My mom was born in Quebec City, so I have a strong Canadian heritage. However, I can ice skate, and that's as far as it goes.
Probably a fairly common name. Up
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. Zero hockey talent.
It's okay.
My wife's maiden name is Tremblay, and that's like Smith up in
Yep.
Quebec.
Yep. Very
That's
true.
Really? I wouldn't have known. I wouldn't have thought of that.
All right, we'll talk to you later, thank you so much.
Rob, this hasn't been updated since then, right?
I've been going to
Or
I think I
should I get the new one
Let me give
because
you the most up to date, yeah.
this is
Yeah,
when?
he's
Thank
kinda-
you, everyone.
Yeah,
710
okay.
one.
Yeah, I don't think much has,
But just in case, thank you. I didn't think of that one.
All right.
been a living document for the most part.
Yes.
Yeah, so basically, we last met on the 26th of June, and you guys presented basically an updated version of what we had done last year. I think we had added in a few South Range projects,
Yep,
and that came out to somewhere in the $40 million range.
yes.
So we tasked you guys with kind of paring it down to a proposal for a bond. And
So
what we got.
effectively,
So you
yeah,
want to address what we've got in here?
yeah, so we knocked it down to, I guess you could call it absolute top priority items.
Yeah.
Start with South Range, the roof, of course, brick facade, and the HVAC equipment. The HVAC, like it says under the roof, significant support work to accommodate the new units, so it's kind of a,
And the HVAC project, of course, South Range, we did not
We did not do
The
it with the
Honeywell project we're
Honeywell.
just talking about, that project is not happening there, so we're
Yes.
looking at South Range being open for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, it's, the units on the roof of South Range are 25 years old now. They function, of course, but
Yeah, well, I remember,
Efficiency-wise.
you know, when they first came and presented the project, South Range is the smallest school in the district, and it was the most expensive school to complete this
yeah,
project.
between the structural work and the units themselves, everything that has to be replaced. There's really no refurbishment with those anymore. So that's the big one. And again, if well, going up there, doing the HVAC and the roof will kind of go together.
Right.
Yeah.
You
Anyway,
can't do,
One
can't
or
do the
other.
HVAC unless you do the roof.
Yeah, and
If you're
then-
gonna do the roof, you might as well do the HVAC.
Exactly, because down the line, we'll have to replace the HVAC units anyway, and doing that will require structural work with the roof, so we're kind of intertwined.
So if I look at this, that's 4.5 million
Roughly, yeah.
if the two are together, right?
All together, yes.
Approximately. Got it.
Yep.
So I think they had said like 3.8 million for South Range when they gave us estimates last year.
Yes, and when we spoke with Honeywell or Jim Lucy, I believe he said what it was, but to add pretty much 10% to the price, it was 2.8 back then. So rounded that to 3, and that'll just again continue to increase. Fire alarm system, same thing like we have throughout the district, while we're trying to start to get onto a pattern of replacing them, having some commonality. South Range will become one of the oldest after East Derry, and Grinnell is, I believe, the next one scheduled to be replaced. The unit, of course, still functions, but depending on weather conditions, power failures, stuff like that, it does tend to get kind of more upset than most, this sort of deal. So definitely something we'd like to see. Barca being the newest building and having the roof on it now. Doors are really the biggest concern there. Between interior doors are wood, wooden doors are very heavy and end up taking out hinges, hardware, all that sort of thing.
Those are the originals from 2005.
Yes, these are all original
Roughly
doors.
20 years old.
Yep.
And they're starting to sag.
They're starting to sag. We had a door company come through last summer, repair a bunch of hinges, stuff like that. We do a lot of hinge repairs, closer repairs ourselves. Yeah, some of them are just getting to the point where the doors have to be replaced. You get to the area where stuff pulls out and there's just nothing to grab anymore. There's only so many toothpicks you can put in these wooden doors before they're useless.
I think sometimes people don't quite have the scope of how much these things cost. I mean, how much did one exterior door cost?
So, to put it into perspective, actually, West Runningbrook, which is another one that we have door issues at, we just had a set of exterior doors replaced. That was to the tune of, I believe, 10,000 or 12,000. So the doors themselves, the framework, and the hardware alone on these doors is probably $1,000 anyway, just for the push bars. Yeah, so it adds up pretty quickly.
For the, do the wooden doors get replaced with wooden doors, or is there a new?
So we've kind of been favoring hollow metal doors,
Okay.
especially inside the building. You'll see at West Runningbrook, we
Yep.
changed a couple of stairwells out with hollow metal doors. Those doors those kids are pretty rough on them.
Yeah.
And again, same issue, wooden doors inside. They end up getting all of their hardware pulled out. We've had crash bars kicked off of them. Crash bars are what you push on.
Yeah.
The metal just holds up better. It doesn't
Good.
tend to sag as
Good.
much.
Yeah, it seems like
Yeah,
that's the way to go.
and even from a weight perspective too, I mean, they weigh very similar. Both doors are fire rated, so they're full of fire retardant,
Yep.
this, that, or the other thing. And
I would think it would be better than wood,
it is, yeah.
as far as fire retardant.
Yep. Yeah, because
Right.
again, the wood's gonna eventually,
Yeah.
but
So we'd be replacing these wooden doors with metal doors. that
that's
are-
that's our preference to go with hollow metal, and
Good.
the prices, I think they're right on with one another. As we had when we had those stairwells done at West Runningbrook, we had both quoted, and they were right with each other. Just for the durability you get out of them, really the only issue that you'll see with the metal doors on the exterior of the building is corrosion from ice melt, the elements, that sort of thing, and that's a given over time anyway,
It's
so.
a New England problem.
Exactly. Yep, and again, Barca as well, if you walk around to a few of the main entrances, especially the well-traveled ones between recess, the main doors, just where ice melt's gone and there's a lot of traffic, the middle part, the mullion of them, will start to rot away, and then you start to get into all sorts of security issues that we have to keep tabs on for the most part.
So for way down the road, future reference, if a building is, you know how Barker has that, South Range has it, East Derry has it, and the front doors,
The
they have an
canopy there?
overhang?
Yep.
Should the exterior doors have built in some kind of an overhang so that maybe there's less of that for the years to come, or is that?
It would definitely help. It seems like, again, Barca for an example, the doors that they use, specifically the ones for recess, there is
that
no
goes
overhang.
by the playground, or
Yes.
the field?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, and that one we've had to secure and brace ourselves, the mullion again, the middle part between
Yeah.
the two doors, because it's just getting pretty rough at the bottom, and just to keep it extra secure, we'll add a couple of braces into it, but
So something to think about
Something to
with
think
a
about.
new build is to talk about an overhang over these exterior doors.
Yeah.
That might give, the expense of that is probably a lot less than having to replace these things down the road.
no, that's true. And we've actually too, in getting ice melt, I've looked for the stuff that claims to be less corrosive.
Non-corrosive,
They
yeah.
can claim whatever they want
Yeah.
with that stuff. They got to reinvent the wheel to make it different.
Right.
Yeah, flooring you'll see quite a bit throughout this. Barca, of course, being newer, flooring's in pretty decent shape. However, there are specifically sections of the building with a sort of sheet vinyl linoleum, whereas the building's settled, it's developed cracks and splitting going through it. So typically every year we'll have some floors that we do over the summer, and we've been trying to kind of chip away at Barca's linoleum and sheet vinyl problem over there. It'd be nice to get all that replaced with just regular VCT vinyl tile. That way, as vinyl tile's nice, as issues develop, we're able to replace them piece by piece if issues develop, but the stuff's much more resilient than carpet and this sheet vinyl anyway. Again, yeah, the carpet is
So
20
you
years
wouldn't know
old.
this question, this answer, but there's the stuff that there's floors that are what they should be, and there's floors that we're gonna bring up to what, it's confusing to me why they would use two different,
Barca is like a flooring showroom if you
Really?
go over there. It's, you've got ceramic tile in certain areas, you've got
probably an
VCT,
aesthetic.
sheet vinyl. Oh, it's beautiful.
Yeah,
It's-
okay,
and,
all right.
But yeah, it's just the variety over there. So we have a pretty much a standard color combination and just a standard product that we use when we replace floors across the district. Kind of like our paint, that sort of deal. Just to keep everything nice and common. That way we have plenty in stock, that sort of deal.
1.5 million different kinds of tiling.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah, we stick with our nice cool white with our brown base, which we've actually got on display here. Looks nice, looks fresh, that sort of deal.
Yep.
And yeah, that's what we've been replacing carpet and the vinyl with over at Barca.
Okay.
And it actually looks pretty nice when it's all said and done, especially getting rid of that sort of tan
Yeah.
aged bit there.
Yep.
Brunel, yep, same. This will be ideally the next fire alarm system that we replace. You probably heard me mention addressable when it comes to a fire alarm system, and pretty much this, you open it up, it's just a box with a bunch of LEDs on it that when something goes wrong, one of them goes on, it says area A. That's about it. an addressable system would tell you, say, smoke detector, room 202, dirty, something like that. Whereas this other one will kind of find your own adventure. And getting older, it's starting to get difficult to source parts for it. We'll have issues. Jeremy and I like to be in the buildings when they're doing fire drills and that sort of thing, just to get eyes on strobe lights, horns, that sort of deal, make sure everything's functioning as it should. And from time to time, we'll find either one or, in some cases, an entire section of the building that needs parts or needs something replaced to make the system functional again. And that's, I mean, parts for this one are still able to be acquired, but it seems like it's taking longer and longer each
They're
time to get
proprietary,
them.
so you can only get them from one place?
Yes, so this system is not a Simplex system
Okay.
or a Notifier. This is another brand, Mertel or something of that nature. Somebody who's probably been absorbed by another company since it's been installed over there.
Sure. 4
So,
years ago.
yeah, it's one of those things where it's still supported, but it's not very widespread anymore, so
Becoming obsolete.
it's becoming obsolete, and just kind of want to get ahead of it. Again, it still works, it's just becoming a little more maintenance heavy, a few more service calls here and there.
I mean, that costs money too, and the parts become harder to come by, and it's harder to find people who know how to fix it.
Exactly, yep, and again, not to keep getting on East Area, which we are replacing theirs this year, we had an issue with the second to last fire drill. Again, a couple of strobes and horns weren't going off. It took, I believe, a week and a half to get an amplifier that we needed. Again, the building was occupied, it was still
Yeah.
second to last fire drill, so we had
You
to...
don't want it to take 2 weeks to fix a fire alarm system.
Right.
Exactly.
Kind of need that.
Yeah, so trying to avoid that, and ideally too, with the fire alarm systems, get everybody on the same platform. So that way, if we have, we can actually keep replacement smoke detectors, replacement parts on hand, so we'd be able to go through, as the maintenance department, change those out ourselves as they get dirty, that sort of deal. Again, the addressable systems will tell you exactly which one, where, there,
And
everywhere.
they're helpful for the fire department too. And
They like it too.
they come in and have to respond to a lot of these calls when they're going off.
Yep.
And it would be really beneficial for their response when they're coming and having them all.
Yeah, and again, like I said, with how Grinnell and East Area are set up, well, East Area currently, they'll walk in, fire alarm, area A. First question is, where's area A? Second question is, where in area A is this problem? And just takes a little longer, God forbid something does happen, for them to find it. Chimney, I believe that's come up a few times, kind of the same idea. Just some brickwork needed. Parking lot and sidewalk. This is not so much Grinnell Road, as that's maintained by the town, but the part off of Grinnell Road. So cove out back, sidewalk out front. Again, the curbing, if you've been over there, you've probably seen that's seen better days.
The parking lot was cut up for bringing in the water pipe last year.
It was cut up for that, yeah. It was cut up when we pulled the underground storage tank for the oil out. So it's got numerous patches here and there. We've got a storm drain over near the loading dock that's seen much better days. That could definitely needs attention. Actually, I'll jump right to the loading dock. I'm not sure if you've seen that, but that's original to the building, and it's, well, original to the 86
So
edition.
every morning for 5 years.
Yeah, it's kind of rough. We've patched it a few times. It is definitely due for replacement. Key system. Grinnell and I'll mention the East Area too. They have a very rudimentary key system. It works, secure, that sort of thing. If you've seen my keys that I have for the district, it's enormous. Ideally, we'd like to get all the buildings on a platform similar to Hood and Barca. Single key that it's non-duplicatable, or do not duplicate for the most part. It's a Slage platform that we use, and it's, I believe, the same system used as Pinkerton as well. Again, we already have that at a few buildings throughout, and I'd like to just kind of keep going with it. Roof of the building at Grinnell, of course, same thing. over the 86 section, that is original, most of it. We did have some work done near the elevator 2 years ago, 3 years ago. I'm not sure if you've been through Grinnell, but we used to have big issues in that hallway upstairs near the elevator. We got that addressed. It's been awesome. And a few more issues, and again, just due to the age, the EPDM, the rubber roofing, is from 1986, so it's holding up
Amazingly well.
pretty good.
40 years
It's
old.
almost 40 years old, and it's again like West Runningbrook's roof. If you saw that, or perhaps some of the rocks that we have floating around lately, it's a ballasted roof, so it's got river rocks on top of it. Yeah,
I
saw the
went
pile.
over
Pile,
and
yeah.
I visited to see your pile behind the,
our mountain.
yes,
Yeah.
it just, it seems so
Unbelievable.
odd to me that you would want all of that weight from those rocks
And it's
on a roof.
I was speaking with one of the contractors from Hampshire Fire who's up there doing the sprinkler system, and he said, don't be surprised if you see the building raise up a little once
Really?
you take the weight off of it.
Wow.
Because, I mean,
And those guys shoveled them off by hand.
they shut the vacuum was broken, so they started the Saturday before the 4th of July, and I believe went right up to the 3rd of July shoveling rocks off of that roof by hand. Unreal. And
A little
That is
warm.
a tough job.
it was
That's a tough
toasty.
job.
Yeah.
Yeah, and again, Grinnell's same boat, and as those will not be ballasted when they're replaced. They're going to be a traditional EPDM roof.
Okay.
Yeah, so
But
no.
there's rocks up on Grinnell as well?
There's rocks up on Grinnell, yes.
Okay.
And even that kind of, when we have to do repairs here and there, onesie twosies, it's go up with a shovel, move the rocks, find the pinhole, and go from there.
So, you having a river rock sale at some point?
If you need river
no,
rocks.
If you need river rock, contact maintenance.
Yeah, or if you start to see some potholes around here with river rocks. in
Yeah,
them,
you'll know what you, what.
Yeah, we'll call the town.
That's it.
I have a question about the 675,000. I'm assuming that's a price that we have right now with the, you know, if for some reason we had some money and we were gonna replace the roof now. 3 to 5 years, it's gonna be a little bit more. right?
Yes, so,
Okay.
yeah, so that is, I believe, from ARM, probably from the last roof track report, which was probably 2023, I want to say. So
Okay.
that can be expected to go up 10% per year, I think is the idea, 5 to 10%. Yeah, again, that's not one of the worst ones that we have right now, but it's definitely, it's old, and this is, we're talking the flat roof especially there.
That's the thing, you know, with all these reports that we get, you know, you have to get the reports done to know what needs to be done, but then if we don't do anything with them for 2-3 years, then the numbers become irrelevant, you have to do it all over again.
Yeah,
And the condition that
And the
Rob's
conditions
presenting
deteriorate,
today is
so,
different
yeah.
than a year from now. So
and that's, yeah, like with Barca and West Runningbrook actually, since we began working with ARM, we'd have the repairs done yearly. I would take care of the leak in that section, but again, just due to the age of the roof, 10 feet that way, 25 feet that way, we'd have another small hole, more abrasion in Barca's case, and it becomes kind of chasing your tail up there, and just a bunch of patches. But yeah, Grinnell, I think that pretty much covers that one. Hood, same idea. As far as the roof is concerned, that one is not ballasted. The flat roof over the 1970 section and the gym was sealed back in 2020 or 2021, I believe. We used the Tremco coating on that.
And that's when we had received some funding from the state. We received a pocket of money. It was less than 4 million, and we were able to do that roof replacement, Dairy Village paving, South Range paving, and West Runningbrook paving.
Right.
We used that.
So yeah, we got a couple of those roofs addressed there. We also had one of the peaked roofs done over, not so much over the library, but it used to be the lobby for the gym, if you want to call it that. It's kind of like the mini peaked roof there.
Mhm.
That was replaced due to leaking, and I don't know if you remember, but it just looked, the shingles were flaking off of it, so that was needed to be done. Other than that, the roof above the 2004 edition, 7th and 8th grade, that is the exact material as Barca's roof. So that's that TPO that kind of shreds. Same age as Barca, and well, it's original to that edition.
They were both done the same time,
The
probably by
exact-
the same company.
Yep, same
They
material,
were.
same everything, and actually, the gentleman we've been working with from Trend has an example of the TPO stuff, that material in his truck, just to kind of show you what it does. I'll see if I can get something from them, but over time, it just kind of starts to fray and wear down, and I know you've all seen pictures of it, but
And that's 20 years old.
that's 20 years old, yes. Old main entrance stair replacement, so door 1.
Oh, yeah.
That was the one that's like crumbling and rusting.
Yeah, so I believe probably a decade or so ago, they were sealed.
That rubber stuff.
Yeah, it looks
Was
like a
it?
sort of epoxy almost, or
Yeah.
something of that nature, just to kind of,
I remember that.
We did have it, yeah, we did have it resealed, which we thought, because it continued to rust, and so we hired a company to come in and reseal, and it's doing the exact same thing it did
yeah,
when it
look-
was done 10 years ago.
it seems like the sealant is starting to deteriorate on it, and it's just kind of picked up where it left off. So we'd like to have those replaced with something a little more durable. Either granite seems to be a pretty good thing. I think we do that and do it once, do it
Done.
and be done with it. Existing flooring, yeah, that's same idea, pretty much throughout. Hoods, carpeting.
Slowly but surely.
Slowly but surely,
Working your way through.
Yeah,
They
and
look good.
yep, and again, every year we try and knock out a few rooms here and there. Pick the worst of the carpeting from rippling perspective, tearing perspective, that sort of deal. A lot of the thing with Hood too is the tile over there is,
Asbestos.
it is asbestos, so a lot of it is, especially in, well, 50 and 70s
70s.
section. 2004, we're golden.
We're good.
But other than that, yeah, it just adds to the cost of replacing the floors. And some of the carpet, as we replace it, is actually on top of tile, so that adds to the cost as well. It's kind of a 50-50 thing. We have to, each room that we go to, we have to kind of, well, of course, look underneath and then have sampling done for that, but that's pretty common throughout that building.
So Rob, for, as far as cost, can you just tell them how much a room to have a carpet replacement is when it's in a building like West or Barker where there wouldn't be asbestos, and a room that does? What's the difference in the cost to replace those?
So
Do
you're,
you add any abatement?
yeah, so the, it's almost double technically, I think. With the abatement occasionally costing more depending on what needs to be done. Say West Runningbrook, for example, I believe you could estimate about $4,000 for a regular sized classroom. At Hood, same size classroom would be $4,000 to have the installation done, and then probably 5 to 6 per room, depending on the level of abatement that they need to do. A few rooms at Hood, they have to do a step above a chemical abatement. They have to actually grind due to the construction of the building.
Since you just said they're literally like chipping.
They're literally,
tile
yeah,
off the
they're in
floor.
there. You can hear them just going to town on it. The chemical abatement's a lot easier, a lot less time consuming for them. Both of them, they're both kind of expensive, of course, being hazardous material in that scale. But
So for a budget perspective, when we're looking at how much we're budgeting per school, the amount of work we'll get done at a Barker or a West for our budget amount is a lot more than we will be at
Right.
Hood or a
Right.
South Range, so just to.
yeah, so that, a great point, because yeah, that would be the primary buildings that need abatements are Hood, Grinnell, and South Range currently. Barca, of course, is clean. West Runningbrook, there is no asbestos, and East Area is the same. So yeah, everything there replacing floors is about half the price. West, concrete banding.
Everybody knows everything there is
Yep.
to know about that one.
Move on to the next
We
one.
know even more
realize
now.
you joined.
Are we gonna be talking to them later?
We won't be talking to them later, but I do have the report.
Oh, you do
for
have the
everybody.
report, great.
Katie's here now too, sorry.
Hey there.
Morning, Katie.
Morning.
Yeah, West is pretty
We can't hear you, just in case.
pretty straight and to the point.
You're muted.
Uh,
It's my computer.
Key system, as I mentioned with Grinnell as well, and obviously Hood has that existing system in place. West is it's starting to become an issue, especially with parts availability for that platform up there. It is, of course, it's original to the building, but it's a 90s system that I believe a lot of the parts were discontinued shortly after the construction was completed up there, so it does make repairs and replacements a little more challenging when it comes to locks up that way. Of course, yes, everything does work, it's just a little more painful than everywhere else.
It's another thing we've got to look for with a new build. As I remember dealing with Gilbert H. Hood windows, they put the new section in, and I don't know if you can, I don't know if this is construction companies, subcontractors, and where they're getting their windows or what, but they were, you probably run into this, I don't know, but they couldn't replace, the windows were, the things were breaking, we had to put wood in there
Yeah.
because they were falling down, and we couldn't get replacement parts shortly after they were put in, because they were no longer making them.
Yep.
So did they get a cheap price for these batch of windows, because they were, what do you call it?
I think you know the
when
answer
they're
to
going
that.
out of- Yeah, well,
There's the liquidation windows there.
liquidation or something, so that's something we need to keep an eye on as well, that
Yeah.
we need to make sure we're getting, I don't think we have to get Anderson, for instance, but we're getting something that we know the parts and first of all, high quality, and secondly, they're gonna,
Something built to
when you
last.
need
Yep.
repairs,
Yep.
that you're gonna be able to get the, because that was driving your maintenance staff out of their mind.
And I think when you talk about public projects, right, everyone's always looking for the cheapest thing.
Right.
Because, you know, it involves asking for the least amount of money, but you end up paying for it in the long run.
No, exactly. And Hood, we were able to, I forget how we did it, but we were able to get the springs replaced in those windows in the 2004 section. And that was probably around 2019 or so that we sourced, I don't know if they had to completely design a spring system for it or something.
I think they did, they had to create it for.
But yeah, and it was a pretty massive project, but those windows are,
Yep,
you don't need to stick wood in them though.
Right, right.
But we did for a while.
We did for a while.
yeah, we did.
West Running Brook, continuing there. Flooring, again, I can keep repeating that. West, if you've walked through, especially in the common areas, carpeting and rubber flooring. The rubber is generally pretty durable. This is original to the building, so it's 30 years old. It definitely is, it's got some areas of failing. If you've been in the stairwells, it's definitely evident there. Common areas, that sort of thing. And the carpet needs no explanation. It's one of those things that you can go through there and pick the worst rooms, and it's actually
Because the
difficult.
library looks great now.
The
That
library
carpet has
came
been
out
replaced, but
beautiful.
before that was replaced, the library was could be a hazardous place to walk.
Yes, yeah, between the rippling carpet, the patches that were put in, that sort of thing. And that's kind of common throughout the building as well. Just due to the age of the carpet.
Are those carpet squares?
In the library, yes.
Would we go with carpet squares if we had to do? Is the reasoning because you can replace a section?
Exactly, yeah. So when we have floors replaced, typically they estimate for a certain percentage of waste for areas that they have to cut into weird shapes, and you know West Running Brook's
Right.
library
Weird
is,
shapes.
the whole thing is like this, but so for that we ended up with a decent amount of spare carpeting, which is the same production run, so there's no real variation in pattern or anything like that. So if we have any issues with spills or leaks or anything like that, it's just the matter of popping up a 2x2 section of carpet,
That's awesome.
dropping a new one in, good to go. So for going forward, areas that we do carpet will definitely be the squares instead of the broadloom rolls here, because just for the sake of that. And yeah, I think the carpet will be pretty much like libraries or media centers and offices. Yeah. Other than that, the VCT just, it holds up really well. You don't have to have a carpet cleaner come in once a year.
Would we be replacing the rubber flooring with VCT, or go back to keep it rubber?
I'd almost suggest keeping it the rubber flooring, just especially with the ramps there.
Yeah, I was gonna say for traction.
For traction, yeah, because we did the same thing, Grinnell, actually, where when we had the ramp paved over there, ramp replaced over there.
There you go.
Yeah, we
That'll
could do that,
last.
that'll last
That'll
quite
last.
some time inside. But, yeah, we put the rubber tiles in there, and it's worked out
Seems like it's good for.
awesome. Yeah, that stuff, again, wears like iron. It's, I don't think you'll get the same life out of it as you would VCT, where you can just go through, strip it and refinish it ad infinitum. But, yeah, definitely a lot more increased life versus carpet.
I feel like when architects design these things, they sometimes forget that this is a building that's gonna have 600 middle schoolers coming through 180 days out of the year.
Oh, exactly. And, yeah, they like to do the skid in their shoes thing, that sort of deal, which again, it'll
It's just
take
wear
it.
and tear.
Yeah.
Having that many children coming through a building, I don't think it's malicious, to be honest. I think it's just
Oh, no, exactly.
traffic.
Nope, and that's it. That's west. East Erie, building key system. Same thing, that's the four of them that don't have that current system. And flooring. Again, East Erie is not rubber flooring, but that is pretty much carpet throughout. Always common areas, the ramp is. The ramp is actually carpet tile. Luckily, that was done probably a decade or so ago, I want to say, and that's held up really well. But the hallways themselves are just regular carpet. They're starting to show wrinkles here and there, of course. Well, they're starting to show. They have shown wrinkles.
That would all go to VCT.
That would all be VCT, yeah. And yeah, I believe.
This reference section is very helpful.
So this is
I'm glad
the
you guys did this.
glossary we tried to add
Yes.
to explain
Yeah.
everything a little bit better.
Hopefully we'll answer a lot of questions.
So, Rob, I don't know if you can answer this question. So, I appreciate that you guys explain the casework, millwork stuff, but I don't see any casework, millwork listed on these priorities. Did I miss it?
Nope, you did not. We actually separated that. Well, we priced that separately on purpose for this, as we took that off of the
It's not in the priorities
It's not in the-
one, but it
Well, I think
needs to
like,
be done.
you know, this initial list here with your $22.5 million, this is like your operational
this.
must.
Yes, this is a.
You know,
That's like the bottom of the absolute must do it.
and I mean, and, you know, to be honest too, like, you know, when you look at these projects under, you know, under the 22.5 million, you know, I mean, for the most part, if you're a parent walking around the building, you wouldn't even notice 95% of this stuff outside of the flooring and, you know, maybe the doors, you know, it's all stuff that's in the walls and the roof. that,
Exactly. Yep.
You know, you could pour probably $20 million into all these buildings and not, you know, you wouldn't even notice it if you were just, you know, taking a quick walk.
100%.
Yeah.
Yep. And that's yeah. Again, why we broke some things down to, like, yeah, when you get to the generators there, we have a little.
I want to talk about those for a second, but on the casework, millwork, I'm assuming that your estimates for the 6 buildings is casework / millwork,
Yes.
right? You just using, right?
Yeah, kind of interchangeable.
Yep.
Again, so millwork would be somewhere like Gilbert H. Hood that has in the 2004 section there, nice wood cabinets and counters, that sort of thing. Casework would be like East Area where they're made of steel.
And we put that in because there was questions at the last facilities
Yep.
meeting.
Yeah,
to
that's been a
identify the
common theme
difference.
from people. What is this?
Yeah,
Yeah.
What do you mean by
yeah.
that?
So it's just more of a reference.
Yeah, kind of interchangeable for the most part. I think depending on how it's constructed. Yeah, roofing we already. Well,
Can we go generators?
Absolutely.
So I'm assuming that at this stage, since you don't have estimates in there, you are in the process, or do we have to determine, have we already determined what size, is it kilowatts, is that what it is? What
Yes.
size each building needs, or do we still need to determine that?
So this is something Jeremy and I have been kind of talking about quite a bit lately, because there's a bunch of different options as far as it comes to this, as far as, do we run the whole building, do we run just certain elements of the building, how big do we need it to be, how many of them do we need, how hard would it be to integrate for each building, because there's certain things like Gilbert H. Hood, for instance, you have the power come in right between the main entrance, or the old main entrance, and the gymnasium. And ideal location would be a generator right in that little area there, that little cove out front.
Yep.
Where I believe there's a...
To the left of the stairs?
Yep, yeah, exactly.
Door
It's like a
one.
little, there's this little...
Door
kind of-
one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I made it. Hey.
there we go. We're just talking about generators. But, yeah, again, just piping, fuel, natural gas over to it would be the issue there.
And of course, my big concern during the winter, when we're trying to determine if we have to cancel school and those kind of things, is the East Erie one, with the fact that you pretty much can't, if the power goes down, we can't limp over. If we're in the middle of the day and it's not freezing, where we don't have heat and it's not too hot, we can get through with a lot of these other schools and still function.
That's it. In East Area, it's
East
just
Erie
not
shuts us down.
having the septic alone is
Right.
one big thing.
I would
with that.
imagine power loss is much more frequent there, just because of the remoteness.
Yes, East Area is by far our biggest, and especially, what was it, 2 years ago that we had Eversource do the...
Yeah, and I will commend Eversource on that one.
That was awesome,
They,
yeah.
they really came, we were hurting, and they drove that big, huge truck generator, right? It's on the back of a truck or a trailer or something?
Yeah.
It's massive.
They
And-
do the controlled cut in the neighborhood,
Yeah.
and it literally got down to, this guy was there getting ready to cut the power, and it was, all right, stand down.
Yes.
But, yeah, pretty much.
You should talk about the pricing.
Have not got there yet. We were just talking about,
That you guys are looking into,
Sizing
that
and-
you're in the process of looking at the generator.
Yeah, because they're like snowflakes, they're all completely different, and, it depends on how we would want to approach it, if we wanted to just do certain loads in the building, or if it would be easier to do the whole building. Obviously, if we did the whole building, it would be a bigger generator. If we did just certain loads like heat and some lights, the generator would be smaller, less expensive, but it's a lot more labor, because especially in a building like Hood where everything is so spread out, if we wanted something over here on generator and something over here on generator, we have to kind of intercept those specific loads and bring them to wherever the generator is going to be, or do we just put something in the main electric room and go that route, piping gas to it depending on where we put it. So there's so many factors that go into it. It's tough to plug numbers in there, but
Right, and the ideal situation sounds like you said, right where the power is, you have a big enough generator, and then it can just go to
Right.
the main power source and power everything.
yeah. There's a lot of different options, and it's something if, say, in the next 5 years, that's something we want to do, then we maybe appropriate some money just to figure out, get some detailed pricing on that. Because we'd have to have like an electrical engineer come in and figure out what's there and what needs to go where. So, it's on here, and it's something we should be thinking about, but I don't know if it pertains to what we're looking at as far as this list goes.
This year.
And my only other question was, is East Derry the only one that has septic? Or
Yes.
is it that East Derry has a different system?
It's not just that it has septic, but the leach field is higher than the building,
So it's got a pump out?
so it's got to pump up to it.
Got it.
The town sewer doesn't go out there, that's basically the reason why it's different than
Right.
Oh, okay.
Can I ask a silly question about a generator?
Yeah.
So, with a generator, can you plan small now but plan for growth? Like, okay, right now we can only afford to get a generator to do these couple of things in the building, but can you, or are you just like a one size sort of a thing? I don't know if I'm asking my question correctly.
Yeah, we would have to determine what we want on the generator. So if we were gonna go through those paces, then, do we wanna have some lighting? Maybe not. Like Hood, really, it's the internet. One of our biggest issues, and it's one of the bullet items there, is we tend to lose one phase out of 3 when we lose power. So technically normally we'll burn out a motor here and there, or we have to go there and shut all the 3-phase system down. So it depends on what we want to do with it. We can get a smaller generator and do specific things.
But, so I don't think I'm asking my question correctly. So, can you build or buy a generator and in the future when you need more out of it, make that bigger, or that's the power it gives out and that's what you buy it for?
Can you add on, basically? It sounds like what Katie said.
Sounds like the
Not
infrastructure
really.
within the building.
Yeah,
No,
not
okay,
really,
alright.
because, you'd have to change.
Sometimes I dream of things in my head, but they're not real, so that was kind of where I was going with that.
Yeah, so say the wiring that we run to it, say it's underground, that would have to change if we had a bigger generator. The pipe size would have to change, so once it's in, it's not something we can just go buy a different generator and put it on the pad.
Okay, thank you.
But Katie, asking that makes me wonder, could we get a smaller generator sooner for East Derry to at least, and it might be able to do other things than, I don't know what a septic pump pulls, but so
East
that,
Derry would be one of the easier ones to do, in the scope of the buildings here, but everything's kind of in the back of the building. The panels are there, the power for the septic pumps are there. If we got something for East Derry, I would say that we would want to, maybe incorporate some safeties while we're doing that.
Yeah.
And just shuts the units down, which is easy enough to do. And then just get something big enough for the septic pumps and something big enough to run the boilers.
right,
Then we know the building's got heat, we can still use
Awesome.
the building, we're on town water, we don't need pumps for that or electricity for that. So that one would be one of the easier ones to do.
that's
You
good.
basically want to run enough so that things aren't damaged, right, power coverage, right?
Right.
All right, well, I'd like to see that one move up in the ranks if we ever get around to it.
So
And
for
I
the
mean,
sake of this list, we could actually take that off and just keep that information there. When Ross and I had talked, if we could have a table there to hopefully put pricing in, but that became a little bit complicated, so just as general notes as to why we think we need generators, or we can take that off.
I mean, I would include it. I mean, I think it's something that we're at least looking at long term.
Yeah.
So I think that I think what we want to have for the meeting in, a week and a half now is, this, your list of absolute, if whatever we're gonna do, your must-haves. And then, probably going back to the list that you guys had last time, which was basically like an updated version of last year with everything. And then, for us as a board to decide how much are we going to bond? Are we gonna, some of those projects that, you maybe aren't including here, things like casework or, even generators, is that something that we want to include? I think that's what the discussion is gonna be.
Sort of like
at
having
next
an
meeting with
alternate, yeah.
everybody. Yeah, so, exactly, like, sort of like, what we did when we were doing the budget reductions, you had like a menu.
Yeah. No.
And we did, Jeremy and I spoke to Mark Jobin yesterday about pricing.
Yeah.
And he said that we would have to expect, for every year we delay is an additional 4 to 5%. But that really even the pricing that we have now, he can relook at if we had like a specific list of projects. But all of those project pricing that even we have in here are pricing from almost a year ago.
And
so-
you've never actually, we've never had actual contractors who would do this work come in and price it. These are all estimates.
Estimates.
Orders of magnitude.
Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
like, you
So-
know, you could say, you know, this is gonna cost $394,000, but you have a contractor come in and give you a quote. Not necessarily gonna be that.
Well, even we
Could be
had.
300, could be 450.
Where they could come in and, you know, like, I mean, I'm sure that a lot of this stuff, you know, when you look at it from the outside or from the valley looked at it, they didn't dig in, you know, to, you know, what the real problems are, where, you know, there are problems that can come up. So again, there, you know, are things that we may not even know about yet.
Right, and so even for the Gale project, when they gave us the pricing back in the winter of 2.9, if we would
Yeah.
do this granite,
Right.
I'm sure it's not 2.9 now.
Even then, that was an estimate.
It was an estimate
Right, yeah.
because, yes, and so that was another thing that we talked about with Mark yesterday, because the question of contingency pricing and soft costs and why we're estimating what people consider high percentages,
Yeah.
it's because we don't actually have plans
Yeah.
and
The numbers that we're dealing
specs.
with, yeah,
Right.
like, are so rudimentary that you have to build in that,
Right.
you know, an extra high contingency, because again, none of these are quotes from contractors for
Right.
how much the work is gonna cost.
Yes, so, because I did ask him, because it did come up a lot last year with the bonds and people
Yeah.
questioning, for example, other projects in surrounding towns, why their contingencies were in the 3 to 4%. And again, that's what's out there because that's what, they have their plans already, we don't,
It
so
depends where
even,
you are.
even when we go out to our bond, and Mark confirmed it yesterday, you still need to put that higher number of the 10% for contingencies and your soft costs, because you're still not at that planning phase, and when the project is closer and you actually have the plans for the project, then yes, your contingencies are probably gonna be in the 3 to 4% range. And I think that we just have to do a better job of explaining that to the public.
Yeah.
I think the section on rough order of magnitude pricing was really helpful. I mean, I've heard you say all these things, Jeremy, but to have it in black and white in just a handful of paragraphs, I think is gonna be helpful for people that don't understand the difference between an order of magnitude and a quote.
The other thing too that we talked about, and I don't know if I put it in that section, was renovations always have a higher contingency because you don't know really what's behind those walls. Whereas
Like
if it's a
abatement.
new build, they know exactly
Yeah.
nuts and bolts, and they know the cost, and they can give you something that's accurate. So a contingency is out, you know, if you add something or if somebody forgot something during the bid or
Well, I mean,
things
the
like
one
that. But
the one I always go back to is when, you know, Valley Rensinger did their studies and looked at the exterior, you know, veneer
and then
at
we
that
had it-
range, it was.
they dug into it and it was.
Yeah, it was, you know, I think the original estimate was if you just had to replace the bricks that were spalling, it was like under $100,000. And then you have Yale go in and they're like, oh, the entire system is failing and you have to replace it, you know, then
Right.
$1 million project.
And when I read this rough order of magnitude explanation, 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth paragraph, last 2 sentences. Rough order of magnitude estimate is often used for information purposes at the beginning of a project. As project advance through planning, design, engineering. So I think that helps greatly. And we, as everybody has said, we just have to make sure we get this information. Well, this is going to be public information anyways, but we need to keep referring to it.
Can I also add that, because Michael, you brought up a good point about different people looking at different levels. And I know that people have asked about why do we hire so many consultants or a consultant after a consultant for the same project. And it goes to your point of, if we just look at the building facade at West Runningbrook, we had LaValle Brensinger because they did an overall facilities assessment. They identified issues that they see.
You can
Well,
see from the outside.
He
this is
sees
the
from the
problem,
outside,
but
which
we don't know
actually
why.
started with Rob and Jeremy, who saw it from the outside of their perspective, which then went to LaValle, LaValley then says, we identify an issue, it needs to be further investigated, which then goes to Gail, and even Jobin went over and investigated. So there are going to be multiple levels of consultants or engineers for a number of projects that,
To solve the problem.
yes, to solve the problem.
Yeah, in like the most targeted way, right? 'Cause I mean,
Absolutely.
you know, going back to like, you know, the South Range veneer, you could look at it from the outside and say like, oh, well, if part of it's failing, you're not just gonna tear the whole thing off for $2 million, you're gonna look into it and see, can we do this for less?
Right,
You know, can we target the problem and do it for less?
yes.
So, I think what we wanna see for our workshop is, you know, I mean, first of all, this is great, you know, your
done.
absolute priorities, like the baseline of what, you know, what we're gonna wanna look at. And then I think, you know, we're also gonna wanna provide the board with the, you know, the original list that you guys had at the last meeting of everything. So, you know, we can say to everybody going into that meeting, like, this is kind of, you know, this is your baseline proposal. And then, you know, going back to what we did last year, you know, there are obviously, you know, other problems that aren't gonna be solved by this. You know, how much do we want to go for a bond? Do we want to, are there other things that we think are a priority and that should be included? And I think that's what the discussion should be centered around at that
So
workshop.
do you want it to look more of a, sort of an à la carte by school of, these were the ones that aren't on this priority list, and then the board can pick
Yeah,
and
I
choose?
mean, I would say, yeah, you would, you know, because I think everything on here is pretty mandatory. Like, I
Yeah.
mean, there's nothing on, you know, this list that you guys have done that, you know, we're taking off. So, yeah, I think, you know, we go back to that other list, yeah, maybe take off the things that are on this list, and then kind of have a list, these are the things that are not included, and then, you know, everyone can come with ideas, I guess.
Oh, absolutely.
And we want this for next Tuesday, I believe, correct?
Yeah, for, well, a week from,
To-
yeah. What is it?
Week from next Tuesday.
I thought we wanted to get it out.
Oh, yeah, we want to get it out to the
Right.
board 1 week in advance of the,
Which will be.
the workshop, so everybody can,
What's today?
Yeah, today's
So
Thursday.
next Tuesday, we get it out to the school board next Tuesday.
and I mean, you guys have this, right? I mean, it's just a matter of editing it down, right? It shouldn't be a huge amount of work.
Yeah, and I think on the list prior to this, we did have some numbers for the generator, so I'll delete that, but I'll keep that on the list.
Yeah, 'cause the,
I'll keep the information there.
Right.
yeah, 'cause the meeting itself is 2 Tuesdays from now, but I think we want to give the board a week to get this information, absorb it, go through it.
Absolutely.
So for that meeting, we'll have this document here and then a second document that's gonna show the other projects that still we'd like to see done, but just aren't this priority level. That's, am I getting that correctly?
Correct.
Yeah, everything else that had
Thank
been
you.
identified, but we're not including in this like top priorities list.
So even the case,
And
like,
thank you guys, this document was great. I thought it was really helpful to go through. Thank you.
yeah, me too. So like the casework, I think was like roughly 800,000 or so on that table. I think that is good for the board to know, because if you decided, let's add that in, it's 800,000, but it covers every school. I'm not suggesting that, but that's what your
I mean,
idea
for
is,
me,
right?
I
Like the
would do
board will
that.
then look at this other list and say, maybe we should slide this into a priority.
Yeah, because I mean, to me, I think that we also, you know, like, I mean, just looking at, you know, going back to that list, some of the things that, you know, we're taking off, like a lot of the electrical work you guys took off of here, and, you know, the ceilings and the, you know, and again, the casework and, you know, things of that nature, you know, the fire sprinklers, we still have 2 elementary schools that don't have any fire sprinklers.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
What would be, oh, sorry.
there are things like that that I think that, you know, we'll want to consider including, because, you know, we're gonna have one crack at this, right? I mean, I think if we go out for a bond next year, for however much money it ends up being, like, we kind of want it to be all-inclusive, because we're probably not gonna get another shot at it. Because, you know, if you do go and get a bond passed next year, and there are still a list of things that we think are important that aren't included in that, it's gonna be really hard to.
A few years down the
A few
line.
years down the line to
Say-
find the money for those things, because everyone's gonna say, well, we just gave you X amount of money 3 years ago.
No, very true.
Maybe I'm jumping the gun. Oh, well, I'm sorry, Katie, you were gonna say something. Sorry.
Yeah, thank you. What would the timeline for this work be? Obviously, there's the challenge of students being in the building, so not all the work can get done while they're there. But do we think that this would be done within the year, or just?
I would say no.
No, but Katie, whenever you take a bond out, you have to have the work done within a specific amount of time. And I apologize, I don't remember what it is, but it's less than 3 years, I believe.
Yeah, because when we were looking at the
Okay.
multi-trend system, it
Yeah.
was 3 years worth of projects.
Right.
Over
And that-
three.
Okay.
That was basically my question too, Katie, was like, I know that we've toyed with different lengths of bonds, and I'm sure some of that has to be a factor based on the usable life of the things that we're doing, right? Like you can't do that's why you can't do a car loan for 20 years, right? So this bond potentially is going to be a 20-year, 10-year, I don't know how, and maybe it's too soon to know that, but I think that does matter because adding another bond later may be more digestible for the community if we have a short bond, like if we have a 10-year bond or a 5-year bond. I don't know what that
And
looks like.
that's a good point, Joe. When I work with bond counsel, she will go through our list, and you can take out one bond, but the terms may be different for parts of your project. So the roofing we expect to be 20 years, so you can have.
Right.
So what I do is, even when we did the last time, I give her a list of what our anticipated projects were.
Sure.
And she looks at them to determine, and we look at what's the life expectancy, because it does change the terms of parts of your loan.
Because they probably don't want a bond, project that's gonna exceed its usable life before the bond is even
Right.
done
They won't
term,
even
right?
allow it.
Right. So so after the facilities workshops, or at whatever point, if it's the 23rd and the board said, like, after that meeting, they're like, oh no, we've got our list, this is good, this is what we all agree on. At that point, then we'll, if the board chooses, contract with Jobin, who will give the cost estimates, so that I can go and start getting some estimates through Bond Bank and that.
What would you expect a timeline for that? Because obviously, like, let's say we come out of this meeting in, a little less than 2 weeks now, and we have a list of, these are the projects, this is what it's gonna be. Then you need to go, to Mark Jobin, so we can get at least an updated estimate of pricing. So that's gonna take some time, and then you would need to go to the bond bank.
Yep.
And we should have some idea of how much time that's gonna take if we just did it, right? So-
Yeah, and for the bonds, even if I went through New Hampshire Municipal Bonds Bank, once I have a total number, like here, 22 million, I tell them same day, they just put in an amortization schedule and whatever
Yeah.
the bond rate is at that time. But we did talk to Mark yesterday, and Jeremy did forward him the list as it stands now, so he sort of has an idea of the projects.
Mhm.
But we told him we'd get back to him once the board finalized. I don't want him to go back around the district, because until. we
No,
actually
yeah, I mean,
set-
we don't
yeah.
want him to start doing work until we have a set
Yeah.
list of
Yeah.
what these projects are.
Right, right.
Yeah, I mean, the other concern that I just always have around the 1960s buildings is, you look at South Range, that's 4 projects that we have, right? Roof, facade, HVAC system, and fire alarm is almost half of the $22 million on this sheet for one building that's the smallest building in the district. And that really just touches on the problems with that building, right? I mean,
Yep.
my concern with that building is that it's gonna become a money pit.
That's a reasonable
That's a-
concern.
That's something that you'll have to look at.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's something we're gonna have, you know, that's gonna be the most difficult part of this conversation, but I think that's something that we're gonna have to talk about.
Because
meeting.
as a community member, they will look at 22 million and think that that is such a large amount of money that they're gonna see noticeable changes in our district. But if
Yeah.
you look at it's very few projects are 22 million. It's not like they're gonna go in and see all of our schools renovated for 22
Yeah,
million.
well, I mean, I think, too, like, some of these schools are so deteriorated, you know, like, we almost, I don't know that there's anything that we can even compare ourselves to in the area, you know, it's like, I mean, I know people go back to Salem a lot, but like, Salem renovated 5 elementary schools for $38 million. You know, like, if we renovated our 4 elementary schools, like, you know, because they did full renovations, they used LaValle Brensinger, you know, the whole thing that we did, and, you know, if we did those kind of renovations, it would be probably a $100 million project.
Yes. And I think in the future, a way for us to not be always in catch-up mode is to always have warrant articles to put money away in a capital reserve account. This current year for 24-25, I think our budget for capital projects in the budget is around $250,000.
Which is,
Which,
you know, when you look at this, it's, you know, pennies, you know, you talk about the amount of money that we're talking about.
Right, I mean, that's not a lot of money to maintain all of our buildings.
Yeah, that wouldn't even pay for the one fire alarm system that's out there.
No. And we didn't even do the full fire, even the full sprinkler system is not getting done at West, which original engineering estimates thought we would be able to be in that budget until the pricing came in, and only one vendor bid on it, and nobody else even bid. So, anyway, do you want to, if we're done that, we can go on to Gail? Anybody?
Sure.
Thank you.
Listen,
Thank you. That was coming.
So I apologize, I did not have a chance to ask Alan to participate in this meeting, but, and this is all listed as, this is watermarked all as draft. And I mentioned Tuesday night at the board meeting that I'd received it late Tuesday afternoon, so I went over it yesterday. And the purpose, if you remember, of Gail coming back out was to look and see if any of the areas of the building had deteriorated from the initial assessment of the building this is particularly West Runningbrook because of the netting. This document just reviews with you, even on page 1, when they originally were contracted to do the assessment of the outside building, which was in June of last year, 2023. I think you've seen all of the original reports on it, but even on page 2, June 11th is when Gail went back out to do a visual evaluation of the precast concrete, the banding at West Runningbrook. And I did not attach, there is attached drawings. I wasn't able to get them off on the 8.5 by 11. Somebody else should be able to print those off, but I'm going to forward all the board members this, and we'll bring it to the facilities meeting as well, and maybe I can see if Alan's able to do a presentation on it. But they identify the 1s, 2s, and 3s on the project. And I think for right now, the important part is to go to, I mean, you can see the pictures where the condition of the banding is and all the identifying areas. Katie, I noticed that you don't have this, and I apologize I didn't send to you. I'm going to email it to you right now while I'm talking. Sorry about that. But the long story short of it is, they did notice some changes in some of the areas of the building, and their opinion is that we would that we should not wait to have the full replacement, although they are recommending, this is on page 5, they are recommending a full replacement of the banding, which would be that $2.9 million project, and we know we don't have the funding to do that, and that is part of the priority list, is to have that banding replaced. But in the meantime, they feel, in their opinion, written in this report, is that the potential deterioration, further deterioration, it's recommended that they put the netting on 100% of the precast concrete areas of West Running Brook. And part of their identifiers were that there was additional water that has now creeped into certain areas of that building.
Just since the last
There's
time
going
we
to
did
be,
this,
yeah, there is no improvement, so water has gotten in there since that point. They talk about different options of netting, and there's option 1, 2, and 3. They are recommending option 3. I'm saying this to you right now, Katie, sorry.
That's okay.
Okay, I just sent it to you, Katie, sorry about that. And so I know when he had done an original presentation for the board, we were somewhere and he just did a guess at a board meeting when the question was asked, and he thought it approximately would be about 500,000.
Yeah.
And so, in anticipation of that, setting aside money in the 23-24 budget for that project. On page 7, they identify what they believe the estimate, and it includes a contingency rate in there as well. So the netting would be $211,100, where there's displacement and deterioration of the banding, and locations where there's map cracking. And again, they reference the drawings. I will have all of that in the email that I'm going to forward to you, and I'll have it in a print copy as well for the facilities meeting. Where the map cracking is would be $131,100, and that would be a total estimate to put that netting up of $342,200. Now, what I would like to say about the head, and I was the first person to say, why would we spend that kind of money to then put it on a warrant article and then replace it all? My reason for wanting to do the netting, and I don't even feel it's a want anymore, we have a document that says 100% we need to do this because of further deterioration. I think we all know it's in our best interest for the safety of anybody who's going to be at that building, that this needs to be done. And there is no guarantee that we're going to get a warrant article next year. I hope we do. But we can't guarantee that, and this is the only option right now to ensure the safety of visitors, staff, students at this property. And so I would believe that we would need to move forward with that. And if this moves forward on a warrant article, and again, we have 3 years to spend it, maybe we do it in year 2 or something like that, but this is not a wish of a Band-Aid, this is a necessity of a project. And I know that I've talked to Austin, talked to Joe's seen the report, both of them, and our opinion is to move forward with it. So I can also have Alan see if he's available to speak on the 23rd. There's some things that, are wish list, and we don't really even go with wish lists at all, but this is not a wish anymore.
Once we know we have a problem, we don't really have a choice
Right.
but to deal with it. I mean, there are probably a host of problems that we just don't know about. I mean, if you guys didn't come to us a year ago and have us order this report from Gale, we wouldn't even be talking about this, right? I mean, it's just a matter of now we've had somebody look at it, we know what the problem is, and it would be negligent of us to not do anything about it.
Right. And I don't have, again, because we just received it, I don't have a timeline of when somebody can complete the project, but we're going to move forward at least having them get bids on it. because they do have the information to move forward with the bid.
And this was something where they were able to put that netting on even while the students were in school, correct? So if we can't move forward till a little bit later,
Yes.
that will be fine?
Yes, they'll still be able to do that work at Katie. It's obviously going to be probably somewhat of a disruption, but I'm sure they're used to doing this, and we'll obviously do the best we can to have as little disruption as possible.
Jane, this is a super minor thing, but before this goes to anybody beyond this table, page 7, the top, it says 30%, but then in numbers it says 20%.
I did see that, yeah.
Okay, great.
Yep.
And in the paragraph before it references 20%, so I know it's supposed to be 20, but I don't want somebody seeing that and being like, oh, now it's 30%.
Yeah, and so there is still in draft mode, so I
Yep.
really don't want this posted for the public yet, because it is a draft from them.
So what we're potentially considering for a total is, because I just did the 1.2, is 410. Building in the 20%, right?
No, I think this
No, that
includes,
includes-
this includes,
20% built in.
yeah, 342 too.
Beautiful.
Yep.
That's nice.
Which, I mean,
to hear.
we were talking about $500,000
Right.
is what we thought it would be. That's the number, and I know, orders of magnitude, right? So we still have to go out to bid on this and see if we can get this, but this is Gail's estimate.
Yes, so if we could just refrain from sharing the actual document until we have them change that. And they send it to us for review, and that's why they always put a draft. So I would never post something from an engineer that has a draft watermark on it until we've gone through it and looked to see that we agree, and like Joe pointed out, it's just a typo on there as well, so.
I mean, just to address, like concerns of the public for why this is happening, I mean, there's really no, going back to when the building was built, obviously it was, the design was granted, and there was a decision to do concrete, which I'm sure was financial,
Yeah.
but you should be able to do concrete and it wouldn't have this problem. It's just going back to when the building was built, and was it 1995?
94,
94?
95, yeah.
The mix of concrete that they used, may have, because we never actually even did the study to determine if the reaction that they think may be causing this is actually what's causing it. But,
And flashing issues.
yeah, and those kinds of issues, but like, if it is, the reaction within the concrete, I mean, there's nobody's negligent for that. The builder was probably adhering to whatever the standards were at the time, because I mean, this is a pretty common problem with concrete.
Yeah, look at the Sills at Dairy Village.
Yeah.
Same idea, smaller scale. So.
Yeah.
If I may,
Less default too.
My
Exactly.
blame
Just
goes,
high off the ground.
my blame goes to the architect, because I'll say it 1,000 times. It could just be red brick from the bottom to the top. This was an aesthetic thing that was added, which, as you said before, architects love to do. And I'm not knocking on architects, but the whole thing was unnecessary. And now we're dealing with this because somebody thought it would be pretty to have a hunk of cement moving around instead of just a brick wall all the way up. And going back to building a school where there's going to be 60, you should build these to be, first and foremost, extremely functional.
Well, even the front of the building, I don't know the name of that material. but it's-
Ephes.
The front or the side
Soft
front?
material
Side
on the
front.
side of the gym.
Yeah.
The
Side front.
ephes,
I got you.
and the ephes, I even, a couple weeks ago, was driving by, and then a bird is flying out of a hole of the ephes. And I called Jeremy, and they fix that all the time, because even
It'll
that
soft, right?
material
That's the
is,
material where if you throw a rock at it, it sticks.
Yes.
Yep.
right?
so somebody did make a recommendation of why can't we just put ephes around, and I believe that Alan, in one of our meetings, said that exactly that reason why he didn't. But yes, so there's birds flying in and out of that part of the building now as well. And
Right.
Got it.
it's a chasing game. So I know that they're concerned about the building. They're watching it. They do look at it to make sure if they see any areas until this netting goes up. I don't want people to think we're not on top of it. We are. This is a very serious concern for us. So Oh.
Yeah, it almost seems like this has moved up to our number one priority in a couple of weeks to make a decision on this and get, because like you said, you're already starting to do what you can do at this point, waiting for a decision to be made, but
Yeah, I think that we're going to act upon it, is
Right.
if we, I think it's something that I've brought to the board, or we've brought to the board many times, and
Yep.
Yeah.
it shouldn't be a surprise to any board member or public, and we're gonna move forward with it at this point.
And Jane, where is that funding coming from to pay for the netting?
From the 23-24 school year,
Okay.
yes.
So you said Alan is going to come on the 23rd, or no?
I'm gonna ask Alan if he
Okay.
can come. Do you think that's a good idea?
I don't know, it's up to you guys on
Does
the
the
board.
board
Do you
need
think
further
that?
explanation on it? Or,
I mean, I don't think it would hurt,
Katie, do you feel that
but
it would be helpful to
I
have?
mean, it's never a bad thing to hear from him and get an update, but at the same time, I think he's also provided us a ton of this information, so if he wasn't there, I think we could get away without him, but
yeah, I don't think any of this is gonna
Sorry
come
to
as
not
a
help
surprise
with my
to
answer.
anybody.
yeah, I think when
We've got the info.
Yeah, it's pretty
Right.
self-explanatory at this point.
I just wanna give him enough time of a heads up if that's something the board, I don't wanna ask him last minute. so.
No, yeah, I mean, I'm comfortable with him, not needing to come. And again, too, I mean, when we, you're gonna provide this to the board members, right? I mean, if anybody has any questions about it,
It's all here. Yeah.
it's all here, and also, you can ask.
Yeah, I think that
You
between
can ask
Rob
in
and
advance,
Jeremy,
we
they're
can
very
contact Alan
versed
with any
on-
questions, if
So
anybody
this
happens to have it.
This will go out a week ahead of time along with the other stuff too?
Yes, I'll have him take the drafts
That's
off.
awesome.
More versions.
Any other questions on that one?
No, like I said, it's pretty self-explanatory. And again, I mean, it's just, like Austin said, it drives you nuts that this is an aspect of the building that is 100% aesthetic. It is not functional in any way.
Correct. Yeah, yeah. And I do want to bring up, I don't know if there was anything else for, I do want to bring up the playgrounds, so we can talk about that. They are in process, well, let me take them separately. West Running Brook's in process, the playground equipment's been ordered, it's being delivered around the end of July. We're going to be close on having that finished before school starts, but realistically, do I believe it's going to be 100% done before the start of school? No, I think we're gonna be within a couple of weeks. But it will, the materials will hopefully be installed, it will be sort of the finish up and getting the fencing in and all of that. So while we had hoped to be completely done when the kids arrived, I don't think that's going to happen. But, as far as the DEEP project, we're still waiting for funding for that. I think, I mentioned that ESSER will not cover the playground for West Running Brook. Again, we'll be using district funding for that. The DEEP project, there's a 10 to 12 week lead time on that. Laura's waiting for her approval to get that funding for that project. When you look at the space, you would think, how hard is that? What, not that big a deal, not that big a space, but it is a big deal. And actually, I'm sure Jeremy could talk to more about why it's become sort of a higher cost item to do DEEP. And remember, they did, and they did pass, you can no longer just use the chips for any new playground projects. It has to be that poured rubber system.
Oh, too bad it couldn't be River Rock, huh?
We were talking about that yesterday.
That's probably the worst stuff.
That's
we've done.
probably the worst
I'm just saying, we have a little bit.
If we did that, I'd go.
And we
into
could get
business.
more.
Sorry, didn't want you.
That was good.
That's a good idea. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
sure we could find some use for the River Rock somewhere. But I just want to make sure that we are, we were just on a call with the playground installer the contractor Moran, who will be doing the excavating and all of that work, and Activitas, who is the engineer. We have been doing meetings all along, and yesterday we had another meeting. So while things are in progress, work's being done, I just wanted to update everybody on the timeline. So for those kids and those families, you will have a beautiful playground in the beginning of the school year, probably just not on the first day, but
I'm gonna hear
we
about
want you to look forward to. I'm sorry that Lennon is, I'm hoping Lennon will understand that his favorite chess player will get on the playground as soon as possible, I promise. And his foursquare and his basketball.
The basketball courts. all
And
ages.
he will get a basketball court. So it's going to be awesome when it's ready.
And Jane, with the deep stuff, if I know that we're waiting on funding. We talked yesterday about the whole weather issue of pour-in-place rubber installation. So if we can't get it in by a certain date, we got to wait till next year, right?
Right. So.
Or the spring.
So
Well, yeah,
we
it's
did
next
talk
year, but-
to the vendor yesterday, who is actually the owner of the playground company. He did an install, was it November? And wasn't real happy with the performance of that rubber material when you get that late into the year. In fact, there's times, just like paving companies are not gonna, yeah. So because we are on the lead time that we are, there's different ways to do that. So either the district is going to fund it with district money and then get reimbursed if her project gets approved, then we would order the playground equipment now and try to cut back some of that lead time and be able to get that playground in the September, October timeline. Or we wait to see how long that project gets approved, and maybe it gets pushed to the spring. So that's just something we have to decide what we want to do and if that's a priority. I mean, we know Deep's playground is a priority. I'm not saying it's not.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and the problem is we're waiting on the state. Right.
Right, and it's not, if you were to just look at it, it's not just a flat piece of property, there's drainage that's in there, that's why we're having to work around. Can you name some of the reasons why it's more than?
There's 2 exits in that area, there's different elevations, so the end result was, we were gonna do like pavement around the sides to keep the egresses open, but then we would have had 5 to 6 feet of walkway on both sides, and it didn't make any sense to go through that effort, so the idea is to do the whole area in poured-in-place rubber, rather than the clearances that were needed around, because the pieces of equipment need an area, like a standard area around it that needs to be poured in place. We were gonna end up doing 85% of it anyways. The drainage system in there's a clean out in there.
2 storm drains.
There's 2 storm drains and a sewer drain that are part of that playground area now, so they just have to be built up.
And that rubber wouldn't see a huge amount of foot traffic, right? The doors that are back there, I mean, they're gonna be used for access to the playground, but other than that, they're pretty much
Right.
just emergency.
Yeah, I think most of the kids use the stairs, but if
Yeah.
there's one that is in a wheelchair or needs assistance, then they would go down and use that doorway. Other than that, it's more of an emergency egress. One of them is an art room, that door never gets used. So,
Yeah, it's odd because there's another art room right next door and doesn't
Does not have a door.
Yeah, that's a weird.
We won't get you going on the egress door, Austin.
Well, he just reminded me about the elevator. So now I'm saying the door in the middle makes sense because you're right. And they do have kids who have mobility issues and so forth. So they will definitely use that elevator and use that doorway. They probably use it now for their little bit of playground that they have. So, but
from the
yeah,
information we have and stuff now, and I envision this whole thing to be like perfection. It's gonna be awesome.
Yeah.
How are you guys gonna go about clearing snow off of the rubber in the winter? Just gonna have to shovel it, I guess?
It's gonna be a downer. I don't know that answer. I hadn't even thought about it. We don't clear snow from it now. They really
But if
just,
it's an egress, you're gonna have to. too, right?
Well, right, but the custodians would snow blow and egress,
Yeah,
and then I guess the kids would just wear their winter boots and clothes and play in the snow.
yeah. There's no concern about like a snow blower damaging the rubber, 'cause I mean, I would imagine normally
guess I'll
you
have to
wouldn't
find
use
out
a
about
snow
that,
blower
I
on
don't
that
know.
sort of surface.
It's a great question.
Leaf blowers. Maybe that's the way to do it. You guys have backpack leaf blowers?
Do not.
I don't know if the
2 feet of wind snow.
But
yeah.
they have a great leaf blower, I know
Yeah, we have the
that.
handheld one. It works
They
pretty
have
good.
used it.
Oh, really? The handheld?
So I don't know, I'm not,
We're not that technologically advanced yet.
I haven't thought about that. Yeah, we'd have to talk to them too, because I don't know, obviously, they're gonna wanna put ice melt on it, that can't happen, I'm sure,
Yeah.
so, we'll have to figure something out. Let's heat it, or radiant heat it,
And building a heating system.
boom.
I assume you guys, you know, I mean, you've been talking to Bill, you know, to Mr. Fox about the first couple of weeks, if they don't have a playground, what they're gonna do, right?
We haven't talked to Bill yet, because we just did
Mr.
the call
Fox is on
yesterday.
vacay,
Yeah.
I think, for another.
We'll find out when he gets back to work on Monday.
Yeah. We
We'll break it
just,
to him gently when he returns.
he's aware that, and they'll be able to, like every school, when there's stuff that happens, and they'll adjust.